Hello, my friends. I hope you're having a lovely day. My name is Ezra Anderson, and today we're going to take this picture and apply a vintage effect to it. If you'd like to follow along with the same images I'll be using today, I'll leave a download link for them in the video description. The first thing we need to do to make a vintage effect is apply a black and white adjustment layer. To do this, we'll come over to the Adjustment Studio and then select black and white. Then you can modify how light or dark you want all of the colors in your picture to become. The next thing we're going to do is give the picture more of a faded look by taking away some of the contrast. We'll do this by applying a curves adjustment, which we can do by coming back to the Adjustment Studio and then selecting Curves. Now we'll make the shadows brighter by bringing up the bottom left node, and then we'll make the highlights darker by bringing down the top right node. To see a before and after of how this is affecting our picture, we can come up to the Layer Studio, and then check the Curves Adjustment layer off and on. You can see that our picture now has much less contrast, making it look faded and old. Now we're going to add a vignette to our picture, which we can do by selecting the background layer, and then we'll come to the Filter Studio and scroll down to the bottom and select Vignette. Then we'll bring the exposure down, and for now we'll bring the hardness up. I increased the hardness so you can see what's happening as we change the shape. As I bring the shape down, you can see that our vignette is becoming more narrow. Since we have a tall picture, we do want to decrease the shape, but maybe not this much, so I'm going to bring it back up a little bit. Now that we have a proper shape, we'll bring the hardness down to 0% so it doesn't have such a harsh edge. Then we can bring up the scale so our vignette isn't covering the entire photo. Now we'll apply this vignette as a live filter by pressing on the lightning bolt icon and then checking Yes. By making this a live filter, we can come back and modify it whenever we want. To see how the vignette is affecting our picture, I'll come up to the Layer Studio, and then if you press on the triangle next to your photo layer, you can see that we now have a vignette filter applied to our photo, which we can check off and on to see how it's affecting the picture. Now we're going to bring some other pictures into this photo so we can add some texture to our document. To place another photo, we'll press on the three circles near the top left and then select Place, and in this case I'm going to choose Place from Photos. Then I'll go into my photos and select this texture. To put it into my document, I just need to tap one time. This textured photo is very large, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and then use the handles to make the picture smaller. Our texture doesn't look quite right now because it's underneath our black and white adjustment layer. So inside the Layer Studio, I'm going to tap and drag to place it at the top of the layers. Then I'll tap twice with two fingers to zoom in. To overlay this paper texture onto our photo, you need to make sure that you have its layer selected inside the Layer Studio, and then we're going to tap on the three circles at the top left of the Layer Studio. Then we'll change its blend mode from normal to multiply. And then if you'd like, you can also lower its opacity. One thing I don't like about this paper texture is the big stain that's right on the woman's face. I find it a little distracting, so let's see if we can remove it. To remove it, we're going to use the Inpainting Brush tool, so you can tap once on the Clone Brush tool, and then tap again to select the Inpainting Brush. With the Inpainting Brush, all you need to do is paint over a part of the photo that you want Affinity to remove. However, if we try painting on the stain right now, you'll see that nothing happens. The reason for this is when we place this textured photo into our document, it was not automatically rasterized, allowing us to work with it. To rasterize the paper layer, we're going to come back to the Commands menu and then select Rasterize. Now when we use the Inpainting Brush, you'll see that Affinity does a great job removing the stain. And if you're wondering why Affinity removed the stain, but nothing else in the photo, it's because we only had the paper textured layer selected. If, for example, we wanted to remove the woman's earring, we would need to have that layer selected and then use the Inpainting Brush. To learn more about cleaning up imperfections in a photo, you can check out our complete beginner's guide to Affinity Photo in the video description. For now though, let's go ahead and add another texture to this image. So I'll come back to the Commands menu, and then select Place from Photos once again. This time I'll select this paper texture, and tap once to lay it down. Then I'll zoom out a little bit and shrink it so it fits onto our document. Then I'll tap twice with 2 fingers to zoom back in. Because we just placed this photo, we already have it selected in the Layer Studio, which means we can go ahead and change its blend mode to multiply right now. And once again, we'll lower its opacity. And now we just have one more texture to place, so once again I'll go back to the Commands menu, Place from Photos, and then select the final texture. And just as before, tap once to lay down the texture, and then zoom back out and shrink it down. And just as before, we'll change its blend mode to multiply. And we'll lower its opacity. Finally, I think our photo is looking a little too dark, so let's apply a brightness and contrast adjustment layer and bring up the brightness. To do this, we'll come to the Adjustment Studio, and then select Brightness and Contrast, where we can bring up the brightness. To see a complete before and after, I'll come to the Layer Studio, and then click on Layer Options, and swipe to the left on all of the layers that we've applied to this document. To select the Vignette Filter, first I'll press on the triangle, and then I'll swipe to the left on the Vignette layer. Now I can tap on any of the check marks to turn them all off, and here we have our original photo, and then I'll tap on one of the check marks to see our vignette effect applied. Thanks for watching, my friends, and I'll see you in the next Affinity Revolution tutorial.